Thank you so much, Julianne, for joining me. I'm very excited to let you know that I have a guest with me today, Julianne Sharer, and she is going to be showing us how she uses a tool called Zotero to manage her bookmarks online. As you know that I love Zeke and that I am definitely committed to analog, but many of you are either digital or a mixture of digital and analog. And there's one area where analog really falls down, and that's in keeping links to digital products. And Julianne has solved that problem with Zotero, and she says that it has a number of capabilities that we will probably find very interesting. So I was thrilled that she was willing to join me today, and she will share with us how she uses Zotero as a bookmarking tool. Julianne,
Great.
I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, so if it weren't for this book, I would not know about Zotero. In the very famous chapter 11, on page 354, Scott says, "Stay with me, we're almost done. On a computer, download the reference manager called Zotero by visiting zotero.org." And he walks through a process. And I was kind of in pure docility following chapter 11. So what I'm going to do is show you what happens when you do that, what you get, and an example of how I integrate that with my Zettelkasten. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to start out. We're looking at an empty browser, and I'm going to just search for Zotero, and it comes right up at the top. So when you follow that link, you come to here. And if you click this download button is where you can install it. They've got documentation where you can find out, including like, how do I install it? So this is in the documentation. This entire product and the website, it's open source. So and it's backed by a foundation that's keeping the lights on. But so what do you get when you install it? You get a desktop application. So this is Zotero. It's a desktop application. It's as you might have seen on the screen there, it's available for Windows, Mac, Linux. It's also available for iOS. I am not your iOS expert, so I won't be talking about that, but it's a cross-platform application. And you have, so what we're looking at are a bunch of things that I have stored over time. And I'm just going to search for something. So what we're looking at here, I just started typing in the name of a tag in the search. And the whole tag is, I'm going to scroll down where all the tags are, right down here, r.am_lktkg. That is a reference, Anthony Metivier's interview of Lynn Kelly talking about her book, The Knowledge Gene. So that's r.anthonymetivier_Lynn Kelly, The Knowledge Gene. Now, how does this work with my Zettelkasten? I'm going to stop sharing real quickly. This is the bib card, and instead of it being about a book, it's got the address r.am/lktkg, and I've got notes on the back, 2 pages of notes. It's as though it were a book, right? It's just that this is a nice reference, and if I want to go to it, that tells me how to get back to it. I just come right back here, and now I'm going to share again. It's got a URL. I can go right to that. So I can get right back to the digital source with no problem. Now, I could have added, if I wanted to make this like a bib card, I could add notes. I could add a lot of different notes, but everything on this that we're seeing here with the info, the date, the URL, where it's from, this abstract, this all came from YouTube. Zotero was able to just like absorb all of that into this application. And if I wanted to create notes and have it be a digital Zettelkasten, it might be a nice way to do it. But that's not what I do. I just want to be able to get back to it. I use the tag to be able to get back to it. And all of the notes that I have are in the bib card. So that's how it works. Now, the installation, I'm going to go back to the web just so you can see what you get into. If you click on this download, like a lot of things, it knows I'm already on Windows, so that's what it's offering for me to install. You just download it and you run the installer like you do everything. And you can install the Chrome connector. The Chrome connector is, and they have connectors for other browsers. I'm using the browser called Brave, which works with Chrome extensions. So it was easy for me to install that, and I'll show how the extension works in a second. But those two things are what make this whole thing work for me, because Zotero itself, it's really about it's a bibliography system, and you could manually enter books and that sort of thing, and it's very smart about integrating with your editors so that you can insert proper bibliographic references in the right format and so on. I don't use it for that at all. Maybe I will at some point, but that's not what I use it for. For me, it's just a very nice bridge between this digital world and my analog Zettelkasten. So you just install it and you get the application that I showed you there. Now you can see here, it's got this little link here, J Sharer. So you do not have to create an account with Zotero in order to install it. And I worked with it for maybe, I don't know, 6 months without having done that. But then I found it would be nice to be able to synchronize all of my notes that I had kept on this PC with my laptop, which I am on at other times. And so the way that works is you create an account, it ends up syncing through the web, and you're logging in to the desktop application in both places, and they just synchronize automatically, and it's super. And having done that, the web is also a place where I can see exactly the same thing. I can see all my notes on the web, should I want to. What else? So I'm going to show you how to add something new. So this is a YouTube video that I watched yesterday that I enjoyed. So I am going to store it. So the connector, this is a weird thing about the connector. The connector's icon over in the browser, it kind of looks different at different times, and I don't know why. But if I hover my mouse over all my little things here, I can see Save to Zotero YouTube has access to this site. So I'm going to be able to click on this, and as soon as I click on it,
Julianne, I think our images are covering up what you're showing. So I'm going to move the window to
okay.
the screen so that you can show us what you're doing then. If you could repeat about the icon.
Sure. So this is the icon that I see. And when I click on it, are you able to see the little tooltip there?
Yes.
Okay, and now when I click on it, it tells me it's saving, and I have already configured it that this is an easy thing. You can have multiple libraries. I just have one called Nadia Z, which represents my Zettelkasten. So it's done. And now if I go over to the application again, we can see that it's been added.
Ah.
So here it is, and it's got whatever he would have put into the notes would be here. He didn't put a big abstract, so I don't know why that didn't come across in the same way that it did with Anthony Metivier's YouTube, but that's what it is. But I have the URL, and now if I want to add a tag, I just go to click here, and I'm going to call this, his name is Artwad, so I'm going to call it AW underscore. I know what this is about, having watched this video. It's about the Dunning-Kruger effect. So I'm going to put DKE, and now I can make the notes in my bib cards to my heart's content, and I can always get back to here. That's how it works.
Now, for those of you who have heard me show and talk about my bib cards with the images on them and taglines, Julianne Sharer is the person that I have to thank for that. Julianne, do you ever also put images of your videos on your bib cards?
I have not, but I probably will, because having done it for books and now having done it for people, it's just nice. It just adds a little bit of zest to looking through the cards. It makes each of the cards that much more recognizable when you're browsing through them. And so yeah, I would probably, and the reason I'm not saying that I'm talking in the future is that my practice of creating the images for books is fairly fresh, and I haven't created so many of these references in Zotero lately and bib cards from them that I would have thought of doing it. But Yeah, I think that I probably will. So it'd just be take a screenshot and print that out.
Yeah, I noticed that you kind of left a space for it, so it looks like you can retrofit those images in quite easily. But also, you mentioned, but we haven't discussed yet, I haven't discussed in a podcast yet, that you also add images to your author cards. Do you want to share one of those and tell us how you do that?
Yeah, it's I'll show you Anthony Metivier. So I have, like you, I have an alphabetical index of people, and it started out life as an index of actors and other performers that I might use as inspiration for characters in writing fiction. And then as I started collecting more and more bib cards of books that I had read, and sometimes it's many books by the same author, I got into the idea that you had already started, Kathleen, of creating these author cards. All right, let's look at Anthony Metivier, just like that.
Uh-huh. Oh, very good.
And I have underneath a list of, I have a little bit of, biographical information, where he was born. I don't know what year he was born. I haven't been able to find that out, but I know that he's lived in Canada, Germany, the United States, and Australia. So I just put that there. And for authors whose birth dates are available, I put that. I don't know. I just put the year. But then here we've got the references to bib cards for this author, and one of them is the one that we just looked at.
Terrific. So, Julianne, now that we've finished the Zettelkasten topic, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? I know that you are the inspiration behind the Zettelkast, the LiLLiPub YouTube channel's broadcast, but you also have a YouTube channel of your own and extra interests of your own. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself with our people?
Sure. So my training, my official training, although it was never my career, but my official training was as a musician. A degree in college was in music theory and composition. And while I never passionately pursued an occupation as a composer, I remained interested in it all my life. And I've had ups and downs pursuing composing while having a different job. And the job that I had until recently was in technology. So when I began my career in music, I was working in the music field in a position that doesn't exist anymore, and it's called a music copyist. So back before computers could create good-looking sheet music, if you went to a Broadway show, if you went to a movie, if you listened to a jingle, anything where music was produced professionally, there was somebody like me with an ink pen and manuscript paper writing out every single note that the musicians played. That's what a music copyist does. And so I did that for 5 years in New York. It was a fairly easy job with my training to be able to live in New York and make a living. And I was making a living as a copyist. Now, who cares? The reason that it's kind of interesting is that when you are a music copyist, you're employed by this jingle company and this Broadway show and 30 different companies through the year that each paid you a little bit, which means estimated taxes. So back then, going to date myself, back then we got a Macintosh 1.0 with Excel 1.0, and I learned how to estimate my taxes with that thing. And I got hooked. How does this work? How does this work? How does it do that? How does it do that? So I'm a self-taught software engineer, and that has been my career all this time. And software engineering and music have an affinity. I feel like the software engineer and the composer share a very narrow fence between their property lines, and they lean across the fence and they have lots of conversations. They have much in common. And so that cross-population of ways of thinking has been with me for my entire adult life, leading me from this interest to that interest to this other one to this other one. And I've been having this feeling there's a way that these all go together. And that's what led me to the Zettelkasten. Just trying to, well, let me just keep the notes out and let me have it spread before me so I can see what connects all of this stuff. Because trying to solve that problem in my head or with digital tools, I tried it. it was rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole that didn't lead anywhere. It was kind of it was sort of like rabbit holes into echo chambers from the digital realm. So that's what led me into the Zettelkasten. And almost from the beginning, when I started really creating a Zettelkasten, I was trying to create a Zettelkasten for a musical piece that I'm working on. And the musical piece suggested a fictional element, as though if you think of a piece like Peter and the Wolf, where there's a fable that's being told through the interplay of words and the music. I wasn't necessarily thinking of writing something where there would be an author or a narrator reading it, but I had just this fictional story coming up, and I never wrote fiction ever. Well, here's the one time I wrote fiction when I think I was 9 years old, and I learned how to type, taught myself how to type, and I started writing a book called The Clue in the Typewriter. And it became very obvious to the adults around me, and then to myself as well, that if you're writing a mystery, you actually need to know how it ends. And that was my one foray into fiction writing in my entire life. Everything else that I've done a lot of writing as a technologist. You build things and you write documentation that says, here's how you use this. Here's what it does. Here's how you use this. So I've done tons of that. All, it's nonfiction writing. But suddenly I had this fiction coming up, and I thought, I don't know how to do that. But there's this lady, Kathleen Spracklin, and she's got this group called LiLLiPub, and maybe they'll help.
Well, thank you, Julianne. And on that note, I'll take the opportunity to show my familiar card, LiLLiPub.org. And please join us over there. We have a Circle for Zettelkasten, where we meet twice a week and talk about all things Zettelkasten, answer questions that you might have, help you get going on it. And we love to see you over there. We've got fiction writing groups as well. Julianne's in our fusion writing group, and just all kinds of things that are fun. And the dues are only $8 a month, so you can't hardly lose out giving LiLLiPub a try. And thank you so much, Julianne, for sharing how Zotero can work to help us keep track of our digital content while maintaining those all-important analog bib cards. So thank you again. I
Welcome.
really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye, everyone.